all the time I was in Melbourne. I was always on a stump, you know, and my favourite ground, of course, was where you live, Brunswick. I spoke many a time out Brunswick, but in Smith Street, Fitzroy was a permanent stump there, like of spreading the gospel. So, you know, I was targeted then with the likes a few of the others, you know what I mean, the prominent people like, Ted Hill, like Jack Blake. I think we got a lot of education through those street meetings. We were very crude at times, you know what I mean, because we took the... now, when I say we, I'm talking about me and a couple of others have thought there was a lot of moderating influence too, but we were a bit hotheads, you know what I mean. We were to the left, and that's as we say. Of course, looking back, we were wrong the way we think, but nevertheless that's the way we did, and jumped the stump, and again, what could I say? We got support, but we didn't gain the majority support because we incorrectly abused the Labor Party as such. And we took the attitude, everyone against us, well, you were either for us or against us. And if you was, didn't matter who you are, if you didn't agree with us, you was wrong, so therefore you were against us. And it was only both physical experiences and more understanding that, tempered the way that you presented things. And I suppose, looking back, it might have been getting a bit tired of the physical lessons and that made the thinking change a little bit more quickly.
Where would you get up at Smith Street?
Yeah, do you know Gertrude Street?
Indeed.
A little up from Gertrude Street in the shopping area. That's this between Gertrude Street and Johnson Street.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, shopping area there. Yeah, that was our run. We used to. That was our regular stand, and then the other one was just round the corner from Johnson Street. All the people wandering up and down. You know, we'd get there. The stump in Brunswick, of course, was right near the town hall. That was the main thing. And when we gave the burst in the town hall, we'd go across the road from the town hall, up a bit to a few shops that were further up there. I think Holways, the tobacco place, and there was a bank and a few shops we used to, up near Albert Street, Albert Street and that, you know, where the shops were. That was a haunt of us.
So you would actually be in Sydney Road, Ted?
Sydney Road, yes. Now the other one that Jimmy Cool and myself kept going. Jimmy spoke on his own there. He held the stump for a long, long time. It was called the Red Square. It was down in Albert Park. That was a Sunday evening. He there, and then I joined him in the Red Square. Then after Jimmy got a bit crook, and he turned, I used to carry on that stump on my own for quite a long time. There was experience I had there too. It shows you that how forces can get to work against you. Near the stump in Albert Park, just up from the stump, there was St Vincent's de Paul, I think it's called. Like it was run a school and an orphanage, and it was run by brothers and all that. And they used to organise the older kids to come down and break up the stump. And, they used to have a terrible go at you, you know. But over time, I won them. You know how I won them?
No.
By buying a bag of chips, you know, from the fish shop over the way and offering them a cigarette. I used to smoke at that particular time, and, you know, and through these little things, over time, I won them. because I used to speak about their mothers and fathers. Were they in work? Were they feeling pinch of the way things were going? Did they want a better way of life? Did you want a better education and all that? And of course that came in the general discussion with the people that were listening. See, so, you know, there's more ways of killing a cat than choking it with milk, isn't it? You know, so again, it's trying to find the way that you can get your message through and win allies. Well, they finished up very, very good, you know. But they were, as soon as ever they got to that stage, of course, they were pulled away by the brothers.
They were told to stop going
Yes,
over
yeah,
rather than
don't go.
being sent over, eh?
Instead of being forced to go, in the finish they were forced to stay, not to go. But they're all experiences, Barry.
I'm trying to visualise the meetings that would have happened in Brunswick, you know, like knowing Brunswick today and that part of Sydney Road. What sort of meetings were they, Ted? Were there hundreds of people?
Oh, no, not Brunswick was a very staunch Labour stronghold, you know, because they were all working class people and had that Labour Party ideology brilliant. They had the Labour Party, you know, reformist views and all that. And of course, at that particular time, the Labour Party was the be-all and the end-all. See, they are wrapped in there. Oh, no, but nevertheless, as we learnt to present our arguments in a better way, a more enlightened way, with our own better understanding how to present it, we had adherents because in amongst the people there was a lot desired socialism because they believed that the Labour Party would, that which they were striving for was socialism, because the Labour Party spoke about socialism but never ever implemented it. And when they did speak about socialism, it wasn't in a fundamental way and inspire the people that this was, was their aim. So there was a response from the people about socialist ideas.
So I suppose in Brunswick, any people who disagreed with you could have been disagreeing because they were pro-Labour.
Yeah, because they were part of the Labour Party. They belonged to the Labour Party. And if they didn't belong to it, they supported it because their viewpoint was that the Labour Party was their party, that they were there to, look after the interests of the ordinary worker. Yes. Eh? And even now, as you can see, it's taken along. Now, I'm speaking, Barry, I'm speaking near 60 years ago. That's, 56, 57 years ago. Now, that's a long, long time. And it's only within the last couple of years, or so we'll say a few more, since the Hawke government has been in this time, that the people are grasping some of the things that we all should have been grasping years and years and years and years and years ago. Because, see, they're that browned off with politicians, with all the promises, with the betrayals, and really they're not betrayals from the Labour Party, they're not really betrayals, because that's the Labour Party's job, is to carry on the system, to carry on capitalism.
Ted, I'm wondering again about the street meetings in Brunswick and Smith Street. Apart from the reaction of the people, what about the reaction of the state, the police?
Well, Barry, although the people were crook on us, you know what I mean, because we were opposing the Labour Party, but they couldn't have got away with half or a quarter as much unless they were goaded on by the police. Not only were they goaded on by the police, but what you've got to realise is the police took a very, very active role in all these street meetings, and most of all in Brunswick, in the free speech days. In Fitzroy and that, you'd be told get up, and get a bloody belting or a kick in the backside and get out of it. And that's why it moved up. But it took a qualitative change in Brunswick, because everyone that got up to speak was arrested immediately, and you'd get half a dozen words out, and you'd be arrested. Not only arrested, but the coppers would take you behind the town hall, and they'd give you a bloody doing over, and a good doing over too. But as one speaker was arrested, another one would take the place, and so on and so forth. But also what you've got to remember, how far the state will go, even in free speech days, which is something surely to fight for, free speech. The coppers shot one of our people, a fellow named Shorty Patello. He was shot. Wasn't killed, thank Christ, but he carried the scar. He was very, very crook for a long, long time. And Shorty Patello, yeah, that's the price he paid. There was another fellow chained himself in a cage into the lamppost, and I forget his name. You said it was Laurie. It could have been him, but I forget. I thought it was another person, but that's beside the point. But that's what actually happened in the free speech days. Another time, there was a prominent fellow there I called Dickie Bird. His name was Ralph Gibson. He'd been, I think he was one of the foundation members of the original Communist Party. I'm not quite sure, but he'd been in long before I was in. I joined in 1933. He joined in the early 20s, so he could have been a foundation member. But he used to get on top of the cable tram, and he'd be speaking from there. Oh, there were many things we done, but that shows you that the state never lets up in using part of its machine wherever they can. They use the police to break up speech meetings. They use soldiers to try and break up the Yarra Bank, and they'll use anything. And what the reality is, perhaps it'll already occurred by the time this is used, that in a revolutionary situation, or when the people are challenging this filthy, rotten social system that we're living under now, that seems extreme poverty on one hand and yet extreme riches on the other, where one individual, the likes of Packer, can tell you his personal fortune is over 1.8 billion and his income per day is $1 million. Well, when that is challenged, you'll see that, like everywhere else in the world, the army will be used to shoot you down like dogs if you're jeopardising their privileged way of life.
Well, there's a lesson in the free speech movement, isn't there, Ted? I mean, I didn't know that anyone had actually been shot. I'm very interested in that person you mentioned. What did he do for a living? And
yes, now again, from record, I think Shorty, I think he was, he worked for the West Melbourne, not the West Melbourne, the down Albert Parkway, that big gas thing. I suppose it'd be Albert Park, South Melbourne, Montague, round that area. There's big gas works there. I think Shorty worked there, but Shorty, he was a very solid working class bloke. He was a party member, but he also was. He married into a very, very working class, well-known family that both men and women that took prominent parts in the struggles of those days, and they were the Andersons. Snipe Anderson, Ted Anderson, Grace that married Shorty Patello, Grace Anderson. Snipe used to be the editor of the Waterside that was put out at that particular time.
What was his real name? Like Shorty was.
I couldn't tell you. Shorty Patello.
Did he live in Brunswick?
No, he lived in Albert Park in that area, South Melbourne.
I see. And were you at the meeting at which he was shot?
No, I wasn't at that meeting. But I took part in the free speech days.
Right.
Yeah. See, I was arrested a couple of times, but see, they were astute. They didn't, like they do now, arrest you and then take you before the court and that. What they did, they'd arrest you and, of course, get you away and give you a bloody doing over, and away you'd go, limp home, sick and sorry, you know.
Are you talking from experience?
My word I am, yes, my word I am. And there were a lot of good people, you know, got belted up. And what's more, they enjoyed it, the coppers. Oh, yeah, and they used to read out, you know, something about you're trespassing on the footpath. Oh, no, blocking. You're blocking the pathway of pedestrians, and there was all the footpath there, but that was, you were blocking. So therefore, we're warning you, you've got to move. If you don't, you'll be arrested. Well, that's what happened.
Were they Brunswick police or police from...
Oh, yeah, both Brunswick police, and if there was a bigger crowd than usual, out would come a few from other places. But, yeah, the Brunswick coppers, they were capable of meting out to you one out your fate.
Did you get to know those police? I mean, were there some who became notorious?
Yeah, the one that stands out in my mind is a copper named McAllister. That's the only one that stands out in my mind, McAllister. He and incidentally, he got transferred from up the Goulburn Valley, where I'd had previous experience with that bastard.
Oh,
no. Yeah, he went from Brunswick to Collingwood. Yes, he put me in hospital, McAllister, through giving me a kicking. But that's another story, you know what I mean, in Maroopna in a boarding house. Don't know whether I told you about it or not, but yeah. But
so can you relate what happened the times you were arrested on this free speech?
What
actually happened to you though, Ted? Like, would you get up and give a talk?
Yeah, but you'd only get at the finish. Like before, early in the piece, you could go for a while, but it got that far, and we were attracting that many people.
Ah, right.
See, as it grew and as people, whether they came to listen, I suppose that was part, but or what was going to happen, or whether there was going to be a big brawl and that. But as we developed the crowd and as more and more came and that, well, then they took more and more drastic action. I think Gibson was arrested once and faced the court, but what they did do. My experience was that they arrested me but gave me a blood settle for giving me a hiding. See, and a lot of them that happened.
How would the people react to that? I mean, the people who were
they were savage. They supported, a lot of them supported us, despite the fact what we're talking about, but they were supporting the principle, I suppose, of free speech, that you should have the right to speak. Well, at the finish, it became that bad that we won. We won the free speech. See, they were told later, because it was counterproductive for them, because more and more people were demanding the right to free speech, the principle, which happened exactly on the waterfront. When I was used, not used, but when I was the instrument, that they won free speech on the waterfront. What they did to me, they not only arrested me and threw me in the can, gave me a decent sort of a bloody belting, but they took that on to the lower court, where a lawyer defended me, a party lawyer defended me, a fellow named Keith Mortimer. Was it Keith Mortimer? Keith? Yeah, I think his name was Keith Mortimer, who defended me and won it, who incidentally, he became a bloody traitor at the finish, but at that particular time, he was a lawyer and he won the case of free speech. But then there was an appeal put in against me winning it, and it was tried by 3 judges and a fellow named Laurie. He was a party member, he was a QC. And he defended me against the 3 judges, and we won it there. Then they appealed to the full High Court, 5 judges. That's how much they wanted no freedom of expression on the waterfront. And I hope it was because of me, because of the support I had on the waterfront. That 5 judges, and we won it 3-2. 3-2, and that's how free speech was won on the waterfront.
What year was that, Ted?
That was when I was carrying the hook, so it had to be between about the end of 40 or the early 50s.
Or is there anything else that I've neglected to ask you about that period, the 1940s?
No, only I think it points out again that eventually the power of the people will decide the issue. And the principle that we were fighting on was good, and it strikes a chord in the hearts of the people, because actually you're speaking for them, aren't you? Freedom of speech.
I was wondering whether the suppression of free speech was really an attempt to obstruct a particular campaign? Like, do you think they were trying to stop you talking about the Spanish Civil War or any one thing? No, I think that behind it, because you were speaking about issues that were reflecting on the system, and you was gaining the interest of the people who you really represented, you as a spokesperson for them, I think that they could see the danger if it kept on going, you know. So it wasn't aimed specifically at one area, it was aimed specifically of suppressing the right to speak.